Hey everybody, this is Matt Morris. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to touch on kind of a brief overview of what's gone on throughout my life, how God has shown grace and mercy and forgiveness throughout it, how He's shown up in times of complete desperation, through addiction, through criminal cases, legal battles, business, just a variety of different things. Huge events. I'm hoping that it's going to be able to maybe entertain you at times, but ultimately I hope that it is able to minister to you, reach you, something maybe you're going through now or you've gone through in the past that have hurts and questions and whatnot. And I say this a lot. It's not what you face in life, it's how you walk through it. And that's true success to me. Success is not by money. Money doesn't equal success. For example, go rob a bank. You have a whole lot of money. It's not a very successful way to get it. But money can bring a lot of challenges and problems also. I know if you don't have it, you go, well, geez, that's great because you can pay the bills. I've had it, I've lost it, I've had it, I've lost it. It can't change or dictate who I am, though. Ultimately, at the core, God's got a plan for my life. He's continued to walk me through that journey, and I want to share that with you, and hopefully you'll be able to get something out of it. So, as I promised, if you've watched the first video, The Pink Elephant, I did promise you that I was going to be releasing some of the documents and details over that historic, largest white-collar crime case in the history of Louisiana that I faced just a handful of years ago, and how God was a part of that and walked me through that. Learned a lot, and He showed up over and over and over, and still is today. And so I promised that I would release some things that just gave some facts to it. Those of you that really want to know what really went on, not what the media said, not what the agenda was behind it. That's what you'll find on Google. But if you really want to understand it, I didn't understand politics until I faced this. But everything I've gone through in life, one thing I've seen is because of how I walk through it and how He walks me through it, is it grows me, it expands me, it hammers me in the fire. And it's been just something I'm so thankful for. And so I'm sure many of you have experienced things in life, maybe going through the fire right now. And I'm hoping to encourage you with these stories, as I'm not, it's not really about me. I might be the main character, but it's truly about Him. And so if you look at the top banner, there's some links there, or if you go to the About section, you'll see 5 links. One is a 3,000 page document that was compiled by my legal team that gives you a lot of concrete facts, supporting documents, tells you what their narrative was and why it was absurd and why they weren't successful in being able to put me away for 1,465 years. How did people end up getting money, making money off of it? It's kind of interesting. Had a DA actually go behind the scenes and reach out to my general liability insurance company and negotiate a deal for them to pay off civil and criminal. It's illegal to mix the two, but they did it. We had one fella, for instance, paid us $1,000 total. We did $62,000 worth of documented work, no profit margin involved, to subcontractors and labor and so on and so forth. In a final restitution deal, my insurance company had been negotiated with to pay him $11,000. He made $10,000 cash on top of the $1,000 that he was reimbursed, and $62,000 worth of work. Sounds like some pretty fair restitution, huh? I could just go on and on and on about the jaw-dropping politics and things that went on, but we're not going to stick on that. If you look there, you'll see some different links. You've got that document. You've got a covered up police report that a sheriff's detective from East Baton Rouge investigates for several months. First 8 pages of his report. He comes back a few months later, puts a 1-page supplement, says in black and white that he has since then spoken to the FBI, the Attorney General's office, and the Louisiana State Board of Contractors. Agents from each of those agencies say no crime was committed. He's reviewed the contract, all appears to be legal, and 2 parties are working with my company and this client, working with our civil attorneys because they're skipping out on the bill, more or less, owes a large amount of money. And it's interesting that page didn't show up in the report when the state turned things over to us. So why would a page be missing? Why was this detective, after putting in his report that he's talked to the feds about a supposed crime that took place with a federal agency, FEMA, and multi-jurisdictional, feds didn't pick up the case from the state. Feds only typically go after things that if you get charged by the feds, you're done. They've already got the case built. You're as good as guilty, and you're not getting out of it. But they don't file charges unless they know they're going to win. They did not pick up the charges from the state for some reason, even though it was multi-jurisdictional, multi-millions of dollars, dealing with a federal program. Yet the local yokel sheriffs pushed this thing through for one purpose, for a narrative, and to cover up what they wouldn't stand for the local public. And the detective is just a couple days after he puts this supplement in his report, says nothing further to look at. He is removed from the case, put on an administrative leave, didn't follow orders, apparently. Another detective is assigned. He doesn't go out, speak to the client, doesn't go out to the project site, doesn't talk to us, just comes and presses charges. Takes his orders well from up above. That's how things roll. It's interesting. Anyways, so I put that page that was missing, that we had to hire private detectives to go find and source all this stuff out because the state didn't turn it over to our legal team. Tried to hide that even one of their detectives said the FBI, the State Board of Contractors, Attorney General, all say no crime was committed. Pretty powerful stuff. But the local sheriff, Jeff Wiley, he thinks he knows better. Okay. So that document's up there. There's a brief. There's my website from the construction company that was underway at the time. You can see it's much bigger than a fly-by-night general contractor that they want to, say flew in and like took advantage of people. Since we had the largest disaster recovery company in the entire state of Louisiana by gross revenues, over all the corporate got Serve Pro and all those big guys. Just a third of my company was bigger than that. And so we kind of led the charge when it came to this flood that happened in our own backyard, third largest disaster in the country. And so that's up. You can navigate that. You can see my new business consulting company. We now take a lot of this knowledge that we've learned over the years and help other small to medium-sized businesses mentor and give them guidance how to grow. Anyways, those links have now been put on the page for you, as I promised I would. There's more to come, much more to come, but I wanted to at least get that started for you. Back to what the real goal is here. It's to give a strong testimony of a lifetime of things that God has just triumphantly walked me through, the things He's shown me, the lessons I've learned, the ways He's stretched me, and got impurities out of me. Still have more to go, I'm pretty sure. But it's been a very, very awesome ride. And I look forward to see what the next chapter is, as things are unfolding still. And but I kind of want to go back several years, back to when I was growing up. So I grew up in a small town in northwest Indiana, and grew up around a lot of family. My mom had 9 brothers and sisters, large Irish Catholic family, and most of them lived up that way. And so grew up around cousins and all the normal stuff. Grew up in a Christian home. Parents were Church of God and Assemblies of God growing up. A lot of rules, a lot of things we couldn't and could do. I have a different perspective on things currently. I'm non-denominational, but there's a reason for that. And not that any one religion or another is wrong. It's not about a religion. It's about your walk with God. And that's what I try to focus on these days. And so growing up, my dad was a mailman. Didn't come from a lot, hardworking, blue collar. At one point when I was younger, apparently he even rode on the back of a garbage truck trying to just bring in an income. So we didn't have a lot, but a lot of family around, and a lot of going to churches. Church, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday, anytime the doors were open, we were there. And so I don't have a very strong memory of being younger, except for a lot of time with family and whatnot. Not a lot to complain about. There is one thing I remember when I was younger. I've always had a very compassionate heart, an empathetic and sympathetic heart for others. I can remember my dad didn't make much, like I mentioned, but he would give us, he got paid every 2 weeks, and he would give each of us kids $1 allowance. And we worked for that allowance. We had lots of chores. And so they believed in the paddle and the spankings and the chores and I don't know what happens these days to kids, but I appreciate it now because I don't know what I would have been like without that. But he would give us each $1, and I would he'd bring us into the bank, he'd cash his check and hand us each $1. Well, I would immediately take my dollar bill and go back up to the counter. I'm probably 7, 8 years old, and would go back up to the counter, and I would ask them to cash it in for 2 50-cent penny rolls, because 100 pennies has got to be more than $1, right? You got 100 of them. And so, but they had those old time, those Lions gumball machines. I don't know if y'all remember those back in the day. I'm kind of dating myself here, but you could put a penny in and slide it over, and you would get little square gum candies out of it. And I would go with that 1 50-cent roll, and I would put a whole bunch in there, and I would and get a whole bunch of gum, and I'd shove it all in my mouth at one time. Everything I do is excessive. It's extreme. And that other 50-cent roll, I can remember I would be at home and I would watch TV, and I would see Feed My Children Ministries, organization, nonprofit, come on TV and their commercials. And I've always had a compassionate heart. And I would watch those things on there about these kids in Ethiopia and Africa and just, showing their rib cages and starving, and they need food and to support their ministry. And it would make me cry. I'd watch the commercials as a young child. I would cry and weep. And I told Mom, I don't want to watch those anymore. They make me cry every time. But I would take that other 50-cent roll and I'd go give it back to my mom. I'd indulge myself with the first 50 cents, and I would give the other one and say, hey, send these to those kids. Send these to those kids. They need it more than I do. At a young age, I would give anyone anything that I had. I've always had a very giving heart, a very compassionate heart, which plays on into the rest of my life, into, having to understand what my drivers are and how God made me and what his purpose was in my life. And so it all comes to fruition later. It's amazing how he imprints you and then ends up using that later in life. A pivotal moment when I was 9 years old, my father and mother sprung this on me. I've got an older sister, 2 years older, Michelle, and a brother 2 years older than that, Jeff. And they told me, hey, the three of us, me and my parents, were going to take a road trip, go down to South Louisiana, to Baton Rouge. And my dad wanted to go to a camp meeting or revival, if you will, at Jimmy Swaggart's. And Jimmy Swaggart, if y'all know who he is, he's probably the largest televangelist in the world. He had a huge ministry down there that they wanted to go down there and see what was going on. They would watch him from a distance, and my dad felt he had a calling on his life to become a minister, pastor, evangelist, if you will. And he wanted to go to Bible college. And this was kind of midstream, so we went down there, 9 years old, hot, humid. Boy, that was an experience. But it lasted a week or so. And on the way back from that revival, if you will, my dad quickly announced that he was going to move our family, that he had decided he was going to move us from Indiana, around our family, friends, whatnot, down to South Louisiana so he could go to Bible college. We got back home. The news was broke to my sister and brother, and things happened pretty rapidly from what I remember. We packed up everything and moved to Baton Rouge. And so we went to school there at Jimmy Swaggart's. They had a 5-star, awesome facilities. They had, all the way from pre-K to graduation to 12th grade, on site with the church and their teleproduction buildings and the Bible college, and everything was state of the art, and really nice facilities, and pretty much over the next handful of years, our life pretty much revolved around there. As we went to school there, our extracurriculars, our sports, everything was there on site. Great facilities. Our friends were there. And so it pretty much revolved around Jimmy Swaggart's. And I can remember, so I started 5th grade there. Had a great teacher there, probably my favorite that I'll ever have had. And so that was a good year. I think went into 6th grade, and the world started to explode a little bit. If I remember right, it was towards the tail end of my 6th grade year. Jimmy Swaggart had gotten gotten caught, if you will, with a prostitute, and it broke world news. All of a sudden, when that leaked out, the world just shook. Our world shook. We were, I was 10 years old at the time, now 11 years old, 11, 12. And come out of school, we've got CNN and all the news stations nationwide sitting there with cameras. And I mean, it just got wild for a little bit, For me, I didn't really understand or care, it never was really about what Jimmy Swaggart did or didn't do. He's just a man. But a lot of people had moved from all over the country, all over the world, even to be a part of that. And so there was some confusion, I think, some hurt, some disappointment. I found over the years that sometimes people, as I start to get older and understand what's going on, people tend to put pastors and those of authority at a whole nother level, hold them supposedly maybe being perfect. And I don't know that that's possible. At least what the Bible says, Jesus was the only perfect one. And so unfortunately, a lot of people were hurt and angry, and, they had moved there and relocated their lives, and, he let them down. Well, they weren't focused on God. They were focused on a man. So I had a lot of friends that I went to school with. Their parents yanked them out of school and took them elsewhere. People left the church, and it was a very unsettling time that affected us in different types of ways. My parents chose to stay, keep our family there. So we carried on, had a pretty normal, life, what I thought was normal at least, and we go to Bible class and math class and all of that good stuff, and we're being trained up. And not but maybe 2 years later, it happened again. And he got caught again with the same situation. And people that were left that stuck through the first time, it's almost like nobody stuck by this time. The remainder of friends that I had that and families that stayed, they left. They were done. Disappointed, hurt. A lot of people were, I think, some were angry, but a lot of people were just hurt, I think, but the focus was on him, I think, more than it probably should have been. And when you put your faith and trust in a man, you're always going to be let down. And so I learned that at a very young age. By this point, after having all of my friends ripped away from me and gone to another school, and there was teachers that had relocated their lives, we had the best of the best teachers were recruited and in contract, and they weren't happy. They wanted to leave, but they were in contract, had to stay. And so we're going to school and going to Bible class, and they're teaching us, this is how you act, and this is what the Bible says, and this is what a Christian is, and here's how you, and y'all better not do this, and y'all better do this, and so on and so forth. And then at the same time as they're teaching us these principles and standards in Bible class, I was watching grown adults who were my teachers and mentors and influencers grumbling and complaining and acting a total opposite way. Saw a lot of just people being two-sided, hypocritical, if you will. And having friends ripped out, just all of this, I was done. I was over it. I didn't care the least bit about Jimmy Swaggart. It was never about what he did, and he messed up. We all have that. For me, that was never an issue. What I had an issue with was the environment that became toxic at a young age. most of my friends that were still left there were immediately removed from school. My parents chose once again to stay and told us, y'all are going to stay. Well, it was a very uncomfortable remainder of the year. And that, for me, started a very long, hard road of resentment to my parents, resentment to authority, confusion, anger, hurt, just a lot of different feelings. And I didn't want to be there. I just wanted to go. I wanted away from it. They weren't going to let that happen. A lot of my friends, or most all of them, went to one of two different other private schools and Christian schools. And my parents made a statement, we're finishing out the year, and next year you'll go to one of those two places. And I said, I don't want you. Just send me to a public school. I am done with this stuff. I'm done with these people acting like this. I don't want to be around it anymore. They said, oh, no, you don't understand. That's not an option. I said, oh, yeah, I'm not going. And I threw my fit. But sure enough, I went. They enrolled me at one of the schools, and didn't take long. I knew that they could physically make me go, but I wasn't there in any other aspect. I was determined. I played sports at the time, played football and basketball, baseball, and I can remember things like, and a lot of the resentments and angers and hurts and all that stuff just transferred over there as well. So it made it challenging. A lot of us could commiserate together, had different, like feelings. And so for me, I got real rebellious. I said, well, you can physically make me come here, but I'm not going to be here long. So I acted up in every class. I would get sent out of class and sent home for the rest of the day. If I'm not mistaken, at 3/4 of the year, I ended up with 34 referrals to the office. And about halfway into the year, one of the gentlemen from Swaggart's came over, and he ended up taking over as principal of school. Well, he already knew me well, and bless his heart, we're good friends now these days, but well, I didn't like him then. He was an ex-coach and very stern, and there was no nonsense with him. And he brought me in when he first took over at midterms and said, look, Matt, I got your number. I've been around you. I know you, son. And he called everyone son. I know you, son. And we're not going to be having any of these games. You can keep acting up, but you're not going to last here. I'm telling you, you're going to get it together, boy. And I said, all right. Well, I can remember I would we'd play a football game, and we would leave from there and go to the little local restaurant, typically after, with all the cheerleaders, and go hang out and whatnot. And I can remember smoking cigarettes. And I can remember coming back on a Monday morning and get called in the office. Hadn't even done anything, just got in Monday morning. School starts, and send Mr. Morris up to the office. I come up there and they go, were you at Calendar's restaurant Friday night at the football game? None of your business. Son, were you? We know you were. Yeah, yep. So, what's the matter? Well, you were observed smoking cigarettes, and therefore you're suspended. You represent this school, and you're not allowed to do that. And so you're going to be suspended for 3 days or 5 days or whatever. And you can't do that. I'm not your possession. That's in my own time. No. You represent the school, and that's not conduct of becoming of Christian and all this stuff. And it just made me more angry. And so it just fueled the fire. And so when he gave me that warning at midterms, we played around in all the classes, and I just always was getting suspended for something or other. And got to the third semester, right before third semester exams, and he called me in, the principal called me in and said, look, we've had it. Here's the way it's going to work. You're going to take your third semester exams, and after those exams are over, you're done here. You can either come back to school the next week and we will expel you, or you can take your exams and you can go somewhere else and you can leave voluntarily, but you're not going to be doing this here anymore. And so I didn't have a choice. And so I said, oh yeah, that sounds good to me. That's really kind of what I wanted from the beginning. I did not want to be there. And so now I got my parents in a position where they had to let me go somewhere else. I said, I just want to go to public school. I'm done with this. And so I can remember we had one teacher that I really gave a hard time to, and Mrs. Brown. And so anyways, I got done with that class, and everybody knew the plan is as soon as that last exam was over, I was going to light up a cigarette in the classroom, walk down the hallway, all the way from one end of the school to the other end of the school where my lockers were, and I was not going to be stopped. And I was going to smoke my cigarette. I don't go to school here anymore. You can't tell me what to do. Screw y'all. And so everybody knew. Everyone was waiting. Bell rang. I lit up my cigarette and walked out of this classroom, and I had a group of people behind me just waiting to see what happened. And I proceeded down, and the hallway was full. Everyone was, oh my gosh, could you believe he's doing it? And here comes the principal, Mr. Austin. He'd come down. He was ex-Golden Glove boxer, coach, tough guy. I mean, I looked down, oh, you're just old. I'll whip you. I'm bad, you know? And so he come through, busting through all the students, grab my arm, better get your hand off me. I'm gonna beat you up, you know? And I'm telling you, you're not my principal anymore. You can't tell me, son, put that cigarette out. So I'm not putting the cigarette out. You can't tell me what to do anymore. Now I can smoke all I want. And so we went round and round, and he escorted me off the campus, called the police, I think. And that was my last showdown there at Christian Life Academy. And with all of that, I got to go to summer school, finish up a couple of my last semester courses, and did some LSU courses remotely, and got my credits or whatnot, and got to go to start public school the next year. Well, I was already advanced, had taken advanced courses prior to that. And so my first year at Lehigh I slept through it, stuff I had already learned the year before. It was easy. So all I did was fool around there, slept, fooled around, went out, partied, gave my parents a hard time. Got involved in more than just drinking, and started smoking pot and trying acid and LSD, or, you know, all these different illicit drugs, and hooking up with the wrong crowd, and just totally blowing things away. And that only turned into, I was already scheduled with things to be able to graduate a year early because I had taken advanced courses early on, and should have been able to graduate at my junior year, and did end up pretty much doing that. But that setback of getting kicked out made me have to go my senior year for, I believe it was 2 courses for the first semester. So the first 2 hours of school for 1 semester, and then I was done. And so that led to partying a lot, just getting real rebellious to my parents, going out and hanging out with the wrong crowd. And I was unstoppable. I mean, anything I do it to my fullest. I don't have a halfway mode. I don't have a coast mode. I take anything that I do to an extreme, even to this day. If it's business, if it's vacation, if it's, I'm full throttle all the way to whatever that particular thing that I'm doing at that point. It's proven well in business, but it's not a real balanced way to do things. And so I end up getting the bright ideas. I'm doing these drugs and stuff, and I can be the one to sell these things. I can get mine for free, and I can make a bunch of money, and be the cool one. And so I start going with another friend, start going to Mexico once a week, every Friday. We'd leave about noon, and the two of us would ride down there, and about 10 hours away to Laredo, Mexico. And at that time, it hadn't been discovered yet. You could get pills and Rohypnols and Xanbar, Xanax, pain pills, Percocets, Vicodin, all this different stuff, speed, Molly, just all kinds of stuff. And you could get it simply by going across the border, and you go to the doctor, the El Doctor. You walk in one door, you would tell them, they give you a menu. You didn't see any doctor, you didn't go in a room or anything. You just kind of went in there, they give you a menu, and you'd say, I want this for pain, for anxiety, for weight loss, whatever you want. And tell them how many you want of each, and they would write you a prescription for each of those right there. Then you would go right next door, walk in the next door, and you go to the pharmacia. And you walk into the pharmacia, and here's your prescriptions. And you paid, I think it was like $8 a piece for each prescription that you purchase. And then you would walk in and hand them your prescriptions, and then they would fill those prescriptions for you, and you'd walk out at very, very cheap to get the pills as well. And so we started smuggling those back, and large quantities. And so we'd make this run about noon on Friday, be back Saturday by 8 o'clock. Had people that were waiting on us. Me and my business partner, I suppose, both had our own little networks, and we would hand out quantity to our different people and supply them, and then kept some for personal use and whatnot. And by the time we got back, we were so tanked up on everything you could think of, from taking downers and speed and up and down and pain pills and whatever. And so this went on for a year and a half. And made a lot of money, a whole lot of money, had a lot of fun. Don't know where any of it went except blowing it. Had a lot of parties, a lot of crazy, wild. Knew the police were out. They knew what was going on. They couldn't catch us. That just emboldened us even more. And so came down to a point where the DEA came into my friend's house and raided it, and his parents' house in the country club, and they didn't find anything. And then he left there in his truck, and they pulled him over, searched the truck, didn't find anything. He went to another friend's house, went inside, they raided that house, didn't find anything. And so I got tipped off, hey, they just raided so-and-so, this is what's going on, get rid of whatever you got, they're probably coming for you. And so got rid of everything. And after all that went down, DEA had rushed him 3 times. A few days went by. We're all nervous and all this stuff, it's kind of a big deal. DEA comes after you. He gets brought in. Now, understanding we're probably not in our right minds, probably not thinking real clearly through this stage in life. And he says, you ready to go? Friday? We're still going, right? I said, oh, I don't think so. I'm thinking that's not a good idea. And he had been so whacked out, both of us, neither of us were thinking straight. And he had a suspicion. He said, you're telling me you're not. I said, man, the DEA came in 3 times. Just because they didn't find anything, they didn't go scratch their head and go, oh, well, he must not be doing what we think he's doing. They just didn't find it. And so they're not giving up. I mean, this isn't over. We need to cool off for a while. We need to take a break. oh, you're trying to X me out of it. You're going to go without me, and then you're going to try to take over all the people that I supply to, and you're going to make all the money. And I know what you're doing. He got all paranoid. And I said, no, dude, it's a DEA. Like, they're not done. They already know what's going on. They're just got to prove it. They just got to catch us. They're going to keep watching. Anyways, you didn't believe me. So he got some poor innocent girl to go ride with him, so he had company. And as soon as they came across the border, they flagged him over, pulled him over, brought him in, put the car up on a lift, found everything. I mean, come on, you gotta be smarter than the average frog. Escaped. I should have been charged with all kinds. If I, some reason escaped I've never had a drug charge in my life. Somehow. And the drugs continued. It got worse. And so, I mean, we're doing coke and, lots of, all kinds of stuff. And some reason I never got caught. Pretty good at what I did, I thought, but that always runs out. And so, kind of to fast forward a little bit, that turns into, bringing, weed in. We end up doing this so much. We just call the pharmacy, I call the doctor, I call the pharmacy, actually. They're owned by the same people, cartel. And we call them. They just said, from now on, you don't need to buy a prescription. You just call us in advance. You're getting so much. We need advance notice. Tell us what you're coming to get. We would just call and place our order. They'd have it all ready. We would get there. We'd go upstairs to the upstairs room. In private, they'd have several women there that would eat every single bottle, crack it open for us, and pour all the pills out of the bottles. A lot of extra space. And so we would take all the pills out, and they would fill them in unlubricated condoms for us. Which was like plastic, more or less, and tie that off, and then they would wrap them in duct tape. We would stick that in the fender wells and different places in the car and bring it back that way, so we could bring massive volume back. And that turned into meeting, we got into bringing, lots of weed. I mean, we're going into compounds with the cartel with, 12, 14-foot brick walls around them, guys with machine guns, warehouses full of coke and marijuana, and I mean, just crazy, crazy stuff. I'm 17 years old, 18 years old. Looking back, I mean, just how stupid. Smuggling this stuff in, living just a life of just partying and craziness, and up in the ante, trying more things, and the rave scene comes to the surface from the very beginning. Start bringing in ecstasy from Houston, and at the very infant stages of the rave scene in New Orleans, starting in the warehouse district, and random warehouses, pop-ups, not commercialized, underground, just wild stuff. Hanging out with the DJs, crystal meth. I mean, the whole wild. And that life was fun for a little while. I can tell you a lot of fun stuff we did. At the time, I thought it was fun. I wouldn't want to do it today, but it's short-lived. Satan's very deceptive. It looks like it's fun, but it always leads to one of a few places, either just complete misery, jails, or death. And for me, it went on into college. I started working part-time. I started some businesses. I've always been an entrepreneur. Even in middle school, I was going to Sam's Club and buying, big containers of fire jawbreakers, fireballs, and boxes of the packs of baseball cards, and all this bulk candy and stuff, selling it out of my locker. I was finding a way to make money even when I was little. I mean, it didn't matter. And so I always had that entrepreneurial spirit. And this was just another phase of it with a different product. I was good at it, and started up some businesses, started up a Mexican import store, got from a friend, and opened it up in a prime location, and realized I don't like retail. You got to be there all the time. I wasn't good at that. Don't like dealing with people. So it lasted maybe 9 months, a year, when I made plenty of money, but it was too restricting. And so also launched beginning of my what ended up being a general contracting company. It was just a construction company at the beginning, do little fix-up projects and that kind of stuff. It's back in 2001. And so going to school part-time, full-time, working part-time, going to school full-time, started operating and working in operating cranes, heavy equipment, working in the industrial sector, chemical plants, that kind of stuff, learning that sector of construction. Had been in remodeling and that kind of stuff prior to that. And it continued on to escalate into coke was my thing. I didn't really like, smoked tons and tons of weed. It just made me tired and wanting to fall asleep. And so I preferred uppers. I preferred something that was going to give me a rush, something that was going to, go in the opposite direction. And so really, really got a liking for cocaine. Did a lot of it, a whole lot of it. Wasn't at the bottom of the hill, could afford it. Living in, going to school, had money, could buy it, wasn't out on the streets, that kind of stuff, and just partying with friends, doing a lot of it. Well, that ended up turning into wanting even more of a rush. I knew my addictive personality and my extreme personality, that if I ever shot it, banged it, shot it in my veins, anything, whether it would have been heroin or cocaine, or I knew I was going to like that too much. So I always stayed away from that. Never did that. Never took it that way because I knew it would be a problem. Knew I'd like it way too much. It'd probably be the end of me. It would probably kill me. And so, but they had come out with crack cocaine. We cook it up and smoke it. And it was a huge rush. Didn't last as long, but much more intense. To this day, I'll tell you, that stuff's the devil himself. It's unexplainable, just good Lord. And it didn't take long. I wasn't out there running around with crackheads on the street and whatever. I was getting it and going to my condo and locking myself up and just smoking a ton of it. And it was just deteriorating, making me paranoid, but I made sure I didn't stay out with the riffraff. I was very careful about how I did it. There was some interesting times at points where my dealer had set me up at one point, and came back to get some, and ended up walking in to the house. I never would go inside, and I messed it up a couple of times by doing that. One time I went in and with the money and a couple $1,000, go get a large quantity, and next thing you know, I had a gun to my head, was put on my knees, tied up, put in a closet. They knew that there was more money out of the car. I had actually just gotten my grant and loan money for the next semester of college. And I had made a mistake of telling my dealer that I was waiting on this money from school, and I was going to have a lot of money, and I'm coming to get a big chunk, big, healthy portion. And he said, "Oh, you are? Sure. Well, we'll be waiting for you." And they had a plan. They were waiting for me. They were ready. And so they decided to tie me up, put a gun to my head, put it in my mouth, tell me, "Where's the rest of the money? Where's the rest of the money?" And well, they went outside, searched my car, found it underneath the floor mat. I thought I was going to die. This was in a very rough part of town, and they left me in there. And as they were searching the car and would come back in and tell me if I moved, they were going to shoot me. And I was scared. All I could do was pray. Wasn't really in a relationship with God at the time, but that's what we all do when it comes to something like that, comes something that intense. We always turn to Him then, but why not every other day? And so that went on to, they took off. Finally, after an hour or so, or I don't remember how long it was, I ended up feeling nobody was in the house and wiggled my way out, and sure enough, it was just a empty house apparently, and it wasn't theirs, and they led me over to it, and they took off after robbing the rest of that money, and I lost all of my money for the semester. That was a hard semester in school, not having any money for my bills and whatnot, because I had blown it on drugs, being robbed. But I'm always resourceful, always land on my feet, always find another way. And so just kept going down that path. So that continued on for months, and brought me to my knees so quick, so fast. That stuff is so strong, so addictive. So, it's a quick high, very fast rush, but it's gone in like 30 seconds. So what do you want? You just want more. And you spend a fortune on it, and it makes you completely out your mind. And you get to the point where nothing else matters. And so school stops mattering to me. It's just bad. And I can remember being in one of my LSU classes, going for construction management and business. And I'm in a lecture class and stadium seating. And I'm sitting there in class. At this point, I'm at another condo, and I've got some friends there, and they're wild. And I have an older friend who goes through a divorce, and he's just living it up. And he, tons of coke, and at this time GHB, which is was known to be a date rape drug. It just made you just out your mind. And they would put a little cap full of it, tastes like salt water, and put it into a girl's drink or something like that. And I never used it for anything like that, but you would just take a little capful, and it just made you lose your equilibrium, something completely different than being drunk. And tons of that, liquid LSD. We would be, you could dig in our couch cushions and find 8 balls of cocaine sitting in there, or a Visine bottle that you thought was Visine, but it actually was liquid LSD. Just finding, there's so much of it. We were washing our jeans and pull it out and be like, "Oh man, there's a half ounce of coke." Went through the washing machine, got to pull it out of my pocket. Just tons of drugs. I can remember coming home, and we had a 6-foot long glass top table, bevel top table, and sawing bricks of cocaine with hacksaws at the kitchen table. Just wild. But I was in this lecture class, and it was getting way out of control, and I knew it. I always had a sense of, didn't have much sense, but when it gets to that point, you gotta stop at some point. Too many people knew, parties every night, I had no clue who they were, just in and out. And I remember being in this lecture class and hearing some girls behind me, some sorority girls, whatever, talking back and forth, and I overheard their conversation. They were talking about, did you go to the party over at Highland Village and the condos over there? Man, that's the best. And oh man, we were always, oh yeah, I go there all the time. And we did this and did that, and talking about drugs. We're in the middle of an open classroom and they're just talking out loud about it. And I'm like, they're describing it, and that's my place. That's my condo. And as I'm listening to this, I turn around to them and look at them, see what they look like. I don't recognize them. I don't know who they are. And I'm like, who are you? Where's that at? And they describe them like, I don't know you. That's my place. They're like, oh, yeah, we have so much fun. Da, da, da. Well, I knew it was out of control at that point. It was just random people. And so I'd been told that there was police watching and start to be careful and all this stuff, and that we were had surveillance and stuff. And so my older friend who had moved in with us temporarily, who was really just off the charts with things because he went through a divorce, and went home and said, look, man, you got to go. This is getting out of control. We had tried to get him to calm down. We're still trying to go to school, party, but this was just a party every night, and it was getting old, and knew it was dangerous. And now we're possibly being surveilled, people talking about it in open classes. Well, this went on for several weeks. So you got to find another place. You can't stay here with us anymore. And finally ended up having to got all of his stuff. Me and my other roommate, who we had the condo together, took all of his stuff, put it on a trailer, took it over to a tanning salon that he owned, and here it is. You're not finding a place. I got no more time. This is out of control. You're gonna have to do something with your stuff. You can't come back. And it was just a few days after that, he pulled out of the tanning salon and in his Suburban, and was pulled over and was caught with gallons of GHB, which only takes a little capful to make you lose your mind, and scales and cocaine and pills and ecstasy and all kinds of just crack. And he ended up getting like 70 years or something like that, which he's gotten released. I found out just about a year ago, and he got released early and now has some rehabs up in North Louisiana, doing real well. Just wrote a book. I mean, it's just these stories of how people turn their lives around. But he spent a lot of jail time. And if he would have still been there living with me, I'd have been in the same boat. They'd have rushed in there and they'd have taken all of us to jail. And so escaped it then. Why do I keep escaping all of these? I've got story after story after story after story, and stupid stuff we would do, and just, made no sense. And escaped it somehow, escaped it being permanent. So I can remember my third DWI. I was making those runs to Mexico, getting all these pills and drugs and stuff and bringing them back every week. Just got back. Went on my run on Friday, get back Saturday night, met my network, distributed some stuff, still had a whole bunch left. I had a Thunderbird 5.0 all blacked out, the high output Mustang engine in it at the time, and underneath in the trunk had one of the spare tire was in the trunk actually, and had a sunken wheel well with a carpet thing that went over it, and the tire went underneath it, and we had went out. I was all looted up, pilled up, uppers, downers. We went out to a daiquiri shop that night, drank a bunch on top of that, which only intensified the pills. Drank way too much, and was driving by myself. And I ended up over, we were over by LSU, and I drove through the Kirby Smith Dorn parking lot, and thank God, I guess looking back on it, there was I think it was an AT&T repairman was up on a boom truck or on top of a building, something like that, repairing something. And he looked down and saw me coming through the dorm parking lot at LSU, and I sideswiped a dumpster with the car, kept going, I didn't even realize it. Sideswiped a parked car, didn't realize it, didn't know, kept going. I had no idea, and ended up literally driving into the LSU football practice field with my car. Get to about the 50-yard line, realize I'm in the middle of grass in a field and I don't know where I'm at. And I make a U-turn and turn around, and as I turn the car around, I'm facing multiple Louisiana State Police, LSU policemen, cars with their lights flashing. I said, oh, this is not good. So I just put the car in park and turned it off. They came up, did their thing, got me out of the car. I can't stand up. I'm so drunk, peeled up, all this other stuff. And they start searching the car, put me in handcuffs, start searching the car. They find a JanSport book bag in the trunk underneath the carpet where the spare tire should have been, but there's a big back sack full of pills in there, and thousands of pills. And they start high-fiving each other. Whoa, bingo, jackpot, look what we go, looky here, look what we got. Boy, wow, look how much this is. And I'm in a stupor and drunk, and I'm telling them, that's all mine. That's mine. You can't do anything to me for that. They're like, oh, you're gonna have so many charges. No, that's all mine. It's my personal drugs. I have prescriptions for all of that. That's all mine. Son, you don't have prescriptions for all that. Yeah, I do. I have prescriptions for all of that. There's no way. Thousands of pills. I mean, yeah, I have prescriptions. Well, they arrest me for third offense DUI. They charged me with schedules 1, 2, 3, whatever, all these charges for all of these narcotics that I have, new pills, and booked me into parish prison. Well, make that call. I'm only in there a few hours. As always, mom comes running to the rescue, bonds me out. Well, this time dad picks me up. They bond me out, dad picks me up. Not happy, obviously. And I tell them over the phone, on the jail phone, before you come, go in my room, and on my dresser, I've got a stack of paperwork. Just bring it with you. Doesn't matter what it is, just bring it with you. So they did. He did. And so he picks me up, shaking his head. What did you do this time? You know. So we got all these charges, but they're mine. It's legal. They can't charge me with this. And so we go down to the LSU police headquarters, go meet with the chief or whoever was in charge, and I present to them a stack full of prescriptions, Xanax and Hypnol and, you know, Valium and Speed and you know, all this different stuff, Quaaludes and pain pills. And so here's my prescriptions. They're all written out in my name for all of the individual stuff. And they look at it and they call other people in and they're all looking at it and they're like, you've got to be kidding me. He does have prescriptions for all this. Literally after they get done having a powwow, they go and they grab the book bag, hand it all back to me. Drop those charges. My dad and I leave with the book bag full of pills. Get in the car. My dad drives about a half mile down the street. We walk into the Burger King there on campus, marches me straight back to the bathroom, go into a stall. He says, flush it on. Oh, Dad, you don't understand. No, you can't do that. This is not my stuff. You know, he said, I'm not buying that. This is, you know, You don't think I'm going to give this stuff back to you? And I'm thinking all this money I'm fixing to lose, and trying to everything I can to convince him that it's some big, scary man, drug dealer stuff, and he's going to kill me if I don't bring his product back to him or bring him the money. He don't buy it. He makes me flush all of it in the toilet. Still have to face the DWI, which I'm getting off of that. But should have had tons of narcotics charges then and gotten some good prison time. Still, only makes me think I'm even more unstoppable. Why does God keep letting me screech by? He had a plan. Well, that progressed on and got into more and more, doing more and more crack, and just it brought me to my knees quick. And boy, that ended up leading to another time when my dealer set me up. And I learned after that last, I never got out of my car. I would pull up, meet him, roll the window down just a little bit so no one could reach their hand in, and wasn't going to get out of the car, and he knew that. Like, I don't play games. Getting my stuff, and I'm going back to my place, and I'm locking the doors, and I'm going to do it in my own safe environment and not expose myself to that element that's very risky. And went and got a 1/4 ounce from him. And he said, "Hey, would you do me a favor? Would you, I need you to give someone a ride." I said, "No, I'm not giving anyone a ride." "Oh, brother, man, I need you to help me out. I'm going to give you some." I said, "I don't need any more. I got plenty." "Well, I'll break you off. I'm going to give you this. If you give them a ride, I got somewhere I got to go, and I need you to give them a ride just up the street. It's not far. Just they're real good people. I've known for a long time. Just give them a ride." No, man, we argued back and forth. Finally, I gave in. So, all right, up the street, fine. And so went to give him a ride. Well, that turned into, well, bring me here, bring me there, couldn't get him out of my car, couldn't, just wild goose chase, all this stuff. And I was like, man, I have messed up. Just did not realize what was really going on. The whole time smoking, high. Shouldn't have been driving. I mean, just crazy. And end up getting a knife pulled on me. There in the passenger seat, I'm driving a Mustang at the time, and pull a knife on me and tell me, "White boy, you better pull over. You give up the Mustang, give up the dope, give up the money, I'm gonna kill you." I thought, whoa, calm down. And I pulled into a parking lot, and it was a tire repair shop that was behind a Circle K convenience store. And I whipped in there. I said, whoa, calm down. They got a knife. I always kept a knife in my driver's side door, typically a firearm underneath the seat. I never got out of the car, so but I had something accessible in case something went down. But they're in my car, and got a knife up to my neck, telling me they're going to cut me and kill me if I don't voluntarily give up the Mustang, if I don't voluntarily give up the dope and the money. I pull and I calm down, and I'm thinking through this as quickly as possible. And man, cool down. Hey, it doesn't need to go like this. Just cool down. Well, I get the bright idea. I go reach down in my door, and I grab the knife that I had in there, and I flip it open. And at the right time, there was a distraction, and I pulled my knife up to them and said, "Hey, here's the deal. This is going to get really messy really quick. This isn't going to go down good for either of us. You need to rethink this. You need to get out the car." We go back and forth. Well, I end up grabbing their knife with my other hand, reaching for the door, a struggle ensues. I grab the door handle, get their door open. We're tussling in the car. Try to push them out of the car and end up cutting that person right across the wrist. And blood starts spurting like, wouldn't believe it. It, like nothing I'd ever seen. Hit the main vein, I guess, and it just was shooting like 10, 15 foot. Freaked me out, pushed them out the car, and took off. Saved myself, left them in the parking lot, bleeding, would bleed out. Went another road up, pulled into a gas station, needed gas, pulled up to the pumps, ended up, there was an ambulance right next to me, and I hear it come across the radio. I'm paranoid, and I hear calling the ambulance, come pick up people. I just had to push out my car. Apparently they walked into the convenience store, crawled in there, blood spurting all over the chips, all over the thing, screaming, hollering, call my mama, I'm fixing to die. Learned all this from the police reports and detectives and stuff. But then said, call this number. I want to talk to my kid, talk to my mama. And went straight for the cooler, went and got a 40 ounce, sat down on the floor bleeding to death, starts guzzling down a 40 ounce. They apparently told 3-4 different stories to the cashier, to the paramedics, to the detective at the hospital, completely different stories. Like 3 guys, they were just carrying groceries, walking down the street, and 3 guys pull into and try to rob their groceries, and all this crazy stuff. And so 3 different stories, and the detectives know that something's not right. There's no groceries spilled all over the parking lot and stuff. And long and short, I take off. I clean the car out. My parents are out of town. They're in Houston visiting my sister, and didn't get gas there. I took off, got spooked when that came across the radio. Went clean the car out, stopped it. I'm like, oh, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna head to Houston. And so I pull into another gas station. I throw down $40, so give me a pack of cigarettes, and put the rest on pump whatever. And they give me the cigarettes. I'm so wigging out, paranoid, I forget to even pump the gas. I get back in the car and take off, get on the interstate headed towards Texas. And not but a mile or 2 up the road, pop. I end up running out of gas. And side of the road, fast forward this story, end up getting gas, come back with a state trooper behind my car. I tell the guy, give me a ride back on the interstate, go ahead and drop me off. They probably just think, I could have just kept going. Anyways, I end up, make a long story short, the detective says, hey, you're getting charged with attempted first-degree murder, armed robbery, aggravated battery. But son, you need to talk to us. You need to we know that this is not the case. The person has already told us multiple different stories. We can tell from you look clean cut, tell this is not what it seems like, most likely, and they've told it, but you need to tell us the story. I said, I'm telling you nothing. Call my attorney. They said, look, if you don't tell us something, we have to charge you. You're fixing to get charged with attempted murder. So, well, here's my attorney's name. Call him. Sure enough, they charged me with attempted murder, armed robbery, and aggravated battery. Get booked. Call my parents. They're in Houston. Tell them, hey, I'm in jail again. This is after I've already gotten 5 DWIs. 5. Got the 3rd one before I had even gone to arraignment on the first one, all in 6 months. In a felony position, 1 to 5 years. End up with a 5th, with a 10 to 30 year mandatory sentence. Never lose my license through all of that. Mom bails me out, gets the right attorneys who are connected with politics and right judge, and they know this, and it just emboldened me all through all of this I just thought I was invincible. I was unstoppable. led me down a long, hard road. Got bonded out, attempted first-degree murder. And within 30 minutes, I was back in my car, headed down to the hood to go find some crack cocaine and start smoking it up again. How insane. Had a hold of me. The devil had a hold of me so bad, addicted, wanted to die at this point. I mean, things were just hopeless. But God still had a plan for my life. By this point, after my parents not having a lot of money, my dad had started up a little side business. My mom would work in it, and she, if it weren't for her, I wouldn't be here today. She truly never gave up, never stopped praying, never stopped. And to the dismay of my dad was done. He was done early on. He was never going to get straight, stop spending the money. We didn't get along, and I knew how to manipulate my mom. I knew how to, we were close. We were extremely close. And during that stage, as I'd manipulate her, and she was an enabler. I'm not saying that to fault her, but it's hard, I would imagine, to have a child go through all of that, and you don't want to see them die. And that's what she just didn't want to see me die. She did not want to see the devil win, and she would pray and pray and pray, and I would continue to run and run and run. And so my dad was done. My family was done. My brother and sister, they were done. They were tired of it was always something. And, it had gotten so bad. I'd had to, every time I got a DUI, the judges and attorneys would work out some little side, where I'd have to go to rehab for 30 days and go put together the good guy package, maybe do a driving school class or community service hours, and never got any jail time. So I was a professional at going to rehabs, putting that good guy package together, give them 30 days, go through the motions. Never was once interested in sobering up, never was interested in getting clean, but walk through the motions. And all I heard in AA and in rehab stuff was everyone whining about poor me, I can't have any fun, I can't do this anymore, I can't, that didn't appeal to me. I was not interested in stop what I thought was a good time, to even in a bad time. I didn't want to become miserable. Just grumbly, complaining, sobriety, I learned later on, has got to be fun. It's got to be done a different way. I feel sorry for people that are exposed to it in another fashion, where they think life's over and it's going to be a struggle the rest of their life, and it's just not that. And so we'll get into that later as well. But so now I've got attempted first-degree murder, armed robbery, aggravated battery. Hopeless at this point. I know it's over. I know that I've got some major issues on my hands at this point. I've escaped, 5 DUIs. I've gone to rehab 5 times at this point. And know that at this point, I never understood anyone wanting to commit suicide. And I've always thought, it just can't get that bad. Life's never that bad that you can kill yourself. It got that bad. I wanted to die. I was hopeless. It's so far away from God, so lost, and so just beat down, tired, wore out, trying to survive and just get to the next day with using and abusing drugs. And I went to rehab. Why it didn't fix me. And so I thought it was supposed to fix me if it was able to. And so that made me even more hopeless. Now I wanted to get sober. I needed to get sober. I needed to a long time before that, but now I was so hopeless that I wanted to. I didn't see, it was either that or death. It was either that or I didn't want to live. But I knew in the back of my mind, I said, I can't go to a 12-step program. Those things don't work. That's a bunch of whining, complaining, don't get it. That doesn't work. So we went on this journey, dated a girl for a very long time who stuck with me through a whole lot of this nonsense. And between her and my mom, they put up with a lot, and continued to walk through it. And we went on a journey to try to find something that made sense. Started looking at every other addiction rehabilitation option besides the 12-step program. I was adamant, I'm not going to 12-step program. They don't work. I'm going to find something else. There's got to be something out there, from holistic programs to, sweat lodges. We the three flew out to Arizona, out to Sedona at one point, to go interview rehabs. We looked at stuff out of the country. We looked at all kinds of, got there to Arizona, looked at this place, and it was, supposed to have, holistic and sweat lodges, and they're going to do therapy and acupuncture and all this stuff. And I said, this stuff doesn't even make sense. This ain't going to work. Which made me even more hopeless. Now what am I going to do? We was hoping this was going to be the one. Looked at stuff, just searching for answers. My mom desperate between each of those, investigations of another type of rehabilitation center or program, me going on these large escalator. They were literally allowing me just to have just enough that I wouldn't go completely bonkers to maintain. And I would still, was going off on these excursions and missing for days and all of us trying to work together, but me being completely out of control. And, but they were determined to, through all the pain and all the drama and all the craziness that I kept putting them through, we were going to find a place. And, you're going to have to stay tuned to see what happens. Obviously, I'm still here, but it really starts to unfold at this point. Again, facing, huge charges at this point, and just hopeless. How did it turn around? How did it? I'm going to give you some answers here, so stay tuned. Look for that next video. Don't forget, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the alert button so you'll be notified when a new video gets posted. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one.